So back then, the famous Evo, which I'm sure a lot of people would love to hear about, right? That car broke a lot of records, and it also had, I believe it was like the highest horsepower car at some of the events you went to.
Yeah.
It's some it was like a dyno, like a Castrol event you guys did.
Oh yeah, we did. God, back when magazines were around, we did
Yeah.
a lot. We did a lot of stuff. That was the Evo 8. So
Right.
we built a drag car out of it, and
Well, it was a multi-use. It was like multi-purpose, right?
it was a drag car, and then we converted to time attack, which is
Right.
insane.
It's
Why would we?
just
Why would we
crazy.
think about it now? Like, what the hell are we doing? But yeah, and then eventually the game became more of a dedicated time attack car. But we transitioned from one to the other, which I don't know what the hell we're thinking.
Yeah. It's
But
kinda
yeah, I mean
wild.
that thing was at its peak. I mean over 1,000 wheel horsepower. We go to down to competitions.
Do you remember the setup on that? Like what you were running at the time? Like fuel pump wise, all that stuff,
my
because this is so long
God.
ago.
This is so long ago. It's talking, God,
Turbo, maybe. I don't even know, because turbos weren't even.
was it?
The technology wasn't
what
the same.
Yeah, no. God, what turbo? We're running a precision turbo, I think, back then.
Okay.
I think it was a precision turbo. I think we're air to air. I think we stuck air to air because we had to do the time attack stuff for a while. I think we eventually moved to air to water, but yeah, I mean, the setup. I mean, the air intake manifold, fuel system. I mean, we're running back then. C16, I think we're running back
wow.
then. AM, AM EMS on that thing. We're running, but that was a wild card. It was stick shift, and we had a, I think back then we worked with Exity a lot, and they had a triple metallic clutch, or carbon clutch, which the carbon clutch you had to first heat it up. So you had, like, before you went for the run, you had to slip it, like literally just like try to slip it and put a ton of heat into it, because coefficient of friction gets higher with those carbon components. So then they would grab. If you did a cold pull, it would slip. So and then as it gets hotter, it grabs harder. So like modulating that thing forget about it. It was like and it was Eric Jones drove that car, and he was a wild man. But yeah, you have to launch a car and row through the gears, and we held that record, the quarter-mile record, for a long time. Long time.
Yeah.
With that thing. So that was fun. That was fun. It was stupid, but it was fun.
So what made you even want to get that car into time attack? Like, was that something that you just wanted to be like the best in, or the first to kind of get into with the Evo?
I mean, personally, I love road racing. Like, to me,
Okay.
Road racing versus drag racing. Drag racing is not to say there's no driver skill. There is driver skill, absolutely.
Right.
But it's a lot of it is technical. The equipment, it's got its own challenges, and it's obviously a short run. So the driver's still very much a big component of it. But with road racing, it's man and machine both equal. I mean, you got to have. It doesn't matter how much power the car, how well it's set up. You don't have a good driver, you forget it. I did some autocross back in the day. I did some road racing, wheel to wheel. Actually, I drove like an Evo 10 in SCCA, called T2 back then, wheel to wheel. And you're on the track for. In the sprint races, 20 minutes. In the longer races, 40 minutes. I did some endurance racing not too long ago in Champ Car Series too. But
Right.
I mean, to me, it's you're pushing the limit. And I guess it's the same thing. You're pushing the limit, like with the drag racing. You're trying to find the most. And with road racing, you're pushing the limit of the car, of yourself. How can I get to 99.9% with a guy without going over and crashing,
Right.
or hurting the car. And again, I think what I liked about road racing is when you're running a car, you're really testing it like hard. I mean, 20-minute session on a track you can't replicate that on the street,
Right.
So for us, it's like, hey, let's test our products on track. A time attack session, road racing, if they can live through that, it can put up with anything else our customers do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
With the time attack, right? I kind of look at that as something similar to, I don't want to say similar to drifting, but you have to push the car to limits for a longer amount of time rather than just ripping it one time down the strip in drag racing, right?
Yeah.
So with the time attack, was there anything that you like kind of implemented into like the drag side of things, or even just horsepower, because you were pushing that car to the limit?
Yeah.
And it was longer than just like a 7-second pass.
Yeah, I mean, we built that Evo 8. We time attacked it.
Yeah.
We won. I mean, we won every year we won the championship of that car, and then we had a Evo 10.
Right.
That Evo 10 was just purely a time attack car. Yeah, but I mean, you see different things, right? In drag racing, you're stressing everything to the limit, as far as braking stuff. In time attack road racing, you're putting a lot of different like thermal loads, right? So it could be from your the cooling system for the engine cooling system, oil cooling system, cooling down the differentials. You're putting like the exhaust manifold and turbo kit through stresses it normally doesn't see. I mean, that stuff was glowing red hot, right? So it's like you won't see that at the drag strip or the street. If you do a let's say 8 to 12 second pull in the drag strip, or even someone does a rip on the highway, you're not seeing a 15-minute session where this thing is, I mean, it literally glowing. You can see through it almost. So we learned a lot from that. Like, hey, thermal management. When we do a turbo kit, you got to support it correctly. So at that temperature, the metal gets soft and it'll start sagging or deforming, right? So you got to, how do you provide proper support to the turbo kit?
Yeah.
Heat shielding. Everything's got to be isolated from heat, building air gaps in, protective heat coatings. How do you get airflow? Where do you move airflow, right? Because if there's no airflow, it's going to just sit there, right? So how do you get airflow across it, and where do you move it? So there's a lot that goes into that.